Drew, week one is finished, and if you didn't notice, we're both 1-0. Bam, right? Drew, go ahead, throw up yours. We're both 1-0. We should both be happy.
Undefeated. Cha 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 cha.
Great podcast that we have. It feels like we're actually getting back to some type of
We're back.
normal schedule once again. Talking about games of the week, defensive player, offensive player of the weeks, talking about the rookies. Now that we have scouted, we've watched very closely, and we've got our takes out there on the channel. It feels really good to really get back into it and talk about all of it. So I'm pretty excited. But we're going to go ahead and start off immediately with the game of the week, which is going to be when the Buffalo Bills came back to beat the Arizona Cardinals 34-28. Drew, I want to start with the winning team on this one, the Buffalo Bills. I know you have some stuff to say specifically about a certain quarterback that maybe got some heat this offseason and leading up to the season, and as early as just a couple of weeks ago. So why don't you go ahead and start off talking about the Buffalo Bills and your takeaways from them?
You know what? Josh Allen, he doesn't have any wide receivers. You hate the rookie that they drafted.
Correct.
You said they don't have any run game, and you think they're going to suck. But here we are. Josh Allen doesn't need any wide receivers. He doesn't need any running backs. He is the running back.
Yep.
He had 4 touchdowns, brought his team back from defeat like he always does. And at the end of the day, there's death, taxes, and Josh Allen. That's all I can say. and you can talk about the turnovers or whatever you want to talk about, but the fact of the matter is, when the lights are shining brightest and he needs to win, he wins.
Yep.
Unless he's playing Patrick Mahomes, then he loses. But so does everyone else. So let's just, we could set that to the side for now, because everybody loses to Mahomes, so it doesn't count.
Yeah, Josh Allen, something interesting. Allen only had 5 passes through the first half, and that's when the Arizona Cardinals were leading the game. So only 5 passes in that entire first half. And then coming out, I think the defense, obviously Josh Allen, did his things. He had 232 yards, 2 touchdowns, 9 carries, 39 yards, and another additional 2 touchdowns, only 1 fumble lost. That was back in the first quarter of the game. Again,
strip sack fumble, by the way.
Strip sack fumble. The defense.
Plenty of players have strip sack fumbles.
Defense really came alive in the second half. Greg Rousseau, 6 tackles, 3 sacks, 3 tackles for a loss, 2 quarterback hits. Also the highest graded player on the Buffalo Bills on either side of the ball by PFF. Someone interesting I want to talk about is Dalton Kincaid is kind of been a name brought up for discussion over and over again throughout the offseason. Hey, he's probably going to be the number 1 target. They have 2 tight ends out there, and the other tight end, Dawson Knox, was the number 1 tight end going into this game or coming through this game. Dalton Kincaid had a wide receiver usage less than Marvin Harrison Jr., which we will talk about, at only 4%, 1 catch for 11 yards on only 2 targets. I think we're looking at a Buffalo Bills team that's going to resemble a little bit like the last year's Packers, and the fact that a different receiver or tight end will emerge as the leader each and every week. 9 different receivers caught a pass from Josh Allen in this game alone. Josh Allen had a great game, obviously. I personally, I'm going to bring up when I'm right, and I'm going to bring up when I'm wrong. I had the Arizona Cardinals potentially winning this game. But, Josh Allen came through, picked it up, and, he put the team on his back, and he won the game. On the Arizona Cardinals side, what do you make of them and what's going on with them? Specifically talking about Mr. Marvin Harrison Jr., what's going on with him?
Real quick, who led the Bills in targets?
Keon Coleman.
Oh, yep. Keon Coleman.
Keon Coleman led the team in receptions, targets, and receiving yards. Yes.
How many catches did Marvin Harrison have?
He only had 1 catch.
Listen, I'm gonna set the Bills aside. I'm a big believer in the Bills. I'm a big believer in Josh Allen. The haters are gonna hate. That's fine. They're just jealous. This is the thing with the Cardinals, is this is what they're gonna do every week. They are gonna give these teams the best shot they can. Yeah. They might finish this season with 4 wins. They might finish this season with 5 wins, but you better pack your bags and come to work the Sunday that you have to face the Cardinals, because Kyler Murray is healthy. He's dynamic. James Conner is a beast. Trey McBride is a beast. these dudes, they might have 7 or 8 losses this year where, look at this game, they were winning at one point. If they had a little bit more talent on certain sides of the ball, they might have put it away. But the Marvin Harrison Jr. thing to me it's very, very simple. Marvin Harrison Jr. did not play for Georgia last year. He did not play for Alabama last year. He did not play, the teams that he's playing, the cornerbacks that were guarding Marvin Harrison Jr. last year are insurance salespeople today. They are car salespeople today. No offense to anybody that sells cars, scumbags. Now Marvin Harrison, you know what he didn't do all offseason? He didn't play in any preseason games. He didn't do anything. And now he's
snaps in the preseason.
Now he's going up against corners that are making $8 to $12 million, going up against Pro Bowl corners every week. He's getting the best guy on the other side. He's getting the whole defense schemed to him, and he didn't play all preseason. What, we just thought this dude was going to come out and go for, 8 catches for 140 yards and 2 tutties? Not going to happen. The NFL is hard. It is very hard. You don't just get to sit on your ass all preseason, not put the time in, not put the reps in.
Yep.
It doesn't happen. Every season we see this where these players don't play in the preseason. We are probably going to talk about Caleb Williams later. We can talk about Brandon Ayuk drops a touchdown in the fucking end zone because he wasn't getting his reps in all training camp. Brandon Ayuk is a seasoned player who already had the chemistry. Marvin Harrison Jr. has 0 in-game chemistry with Kyler Murray. You haven't played any schemed defense. These guys are just running out cover 2 or cover 3 or man coverage or whatever. They're not even blitzing. And then you just expected him to pop off the page. Marvin Harrison laying a dead this week, I could have seen that coming from a mile away. Nevertheless, he'll get better. He's a stud. He's going to be good. And the Cardinals are going to be a handful all season. I don't look forward to our 2 games against them this year.
Yeah, I had the same type of takeaway as well. 3 targets, 1 catch for 4 yards, and he had a drop as well on those targets. He looks like he's not trusted in the offense yet in this season, and a lot of that has to go into getting reps. Only 3 snaps in the preseason. Most of his receiving snaps looked like he was an X receiver on the back end. He wasn't really targeted. He definitely was not the first read on most of the play designs. So that's kind of where we stand with Marvin Harrison Jr. The leading receiver for this team this week was Greg Dortch, 6 receptions, 47 yards. Now on the other side of the ball, you had Mack Wilson and Zaven Collins having a pretty good game, each individually getting 9 tackles and 1 tackle for loss. They were the 2 highest graded players on the Cardinals together. The Cardinals overall, looking at the game, they looked really good in the first half with a good game through the air and on the ground. James Conner looked really good, being involved in the game plan overall, again, both on the ground and in the air. In the second half, completely different. Their biggest positive in the air turned into their biggest negative. They really couldn't get anything going. Kyler Murray being pressured multiple times. Already talked about Greg Rousseau's 3 sacks. Those 3 sacks came in the second half of the game, along with Von Miller as well getting a sack. So, and then Kyler also fumbled. So those things go into the Arizona Cardinals offensive line. Listen, they have a really talented quarterback. They have a young prospective wide receiver, a very young, good tight end. But they have some holes on the offensive line, and they have a lot of holes in the defense. This is, just like Drew said, going to be a competitive team. May only win a couple of games this season. Maybe I think their ceiling's probably about 7-ish, maybe 8-ish at the max. But they're going to be competitive at the very least. So I think that's the takeaways for the game, looking at both sides of the ball. Drew, do you have anything to say about the game of the week before we move on to our next segment?
No, just if you weren't able to catch it, go just check out some of the highlights from this game. It was very exciting. It was very back and forth, and there was not very good quarterback play this week one. Obviously, I think that's probably to be expected. A lot of these quarterbacks aren't even playing in the preseason. Frankly, training camp and the preseason has turned into not even anything worth watching, except for the fact that we're rabid fans. So some adjustment is going to be expected. But go back and watch this game because it was high level. It was back and forth, and it was definitely fun to watch Josh Allen put the team on his back and carry him to a W.
Looking at the defensive side of the ball this week, Drew, Who is your defensive player of the week? Obviously, we have a bunch of candidates, a lot of good defensive player across the entire league this week. Who's your number one guy, though?
Yeah, I'm gonna give it to TJ Watt. That Steelers defense is fantastic. Looks like it's going to be legit. Obviously, they have more than just TJ Watt on that side, and their offense leaves a shit ton to be desired. So if they're going to continue to have any type of success, which you would assume since it's a Mike Tomlin team, they're going to win 8 or 9 games and make the playoffs. That defense is going to continue to be fantastic. And TJ Watt has taken a strong first step towards his consideration towards Defensive Player of the Year.
Right.
If I don't want to steal your thunder here because there is a 1B for me, and it was really hard to distinguish between these two guys. So I'll let you go with yours, and then if you don't mention him, I'll bring him back up.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and give out honorable mentions as well, because there's a couple guys I want to go ahead and shout out as well.
Okay.
We've already mentioned my defensive player of the week. It's going to be Greg Rousseau. 6 tackles, 3 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, and 2 quarterback hits. I had a couple of guys that I was going to bring up for just some consideration. Hey, shout out. But again, Greg Rousseau putting in the work. A lot of people should know the name Greg Rousseau at this point, coming out of Miami, coming out of the U. He was talented. He's been talented, just about health and getting him to this point. I think he should be poised for a pretty decent year. And then week 1 is just kind of already proving that he's ready to go and take that step. Who is your guy you want to shout out, or a couple guys you want to shout out?
Yeah, there's a couple. It was nice to see my boy's brother, flash a little bit. Joey Bosa had a great game for the Chargers. I'm obviously a big believer in the Chargers. And then I'll leave the more obvious one to you. He was wearing blue the other night and looked like a freaking menace. Also wears number 97. But also Myles Garrett is still in this league. He's still a force to be reckoned with. And he made a rookie tackle look pretty terrible the other day, which is funny considering the Dallas Cowboys absolutely routed the Browns. So, but at least Myles Garrett is still good. The one thing is if your team's going to suck, you at least want to watch someone play. As a Kings fan, that's called the DeMarcus Cousins syndrome. So at least the Browns have Myles Garrett they get to watch.
Yeah, watching the game Sunday night and seeing Aiden Hutchinson week in and week out last year just do the same thing. It's that nasty ass spin move. Looks like we're watching Dwight Freeney reincarnated at this point. He's in the backfield constantly. Might not have been putting up the exact right in your face stats, but he was in on almost every single play. A couple other guys I want to kind of bring up as well. Zach Bond, the linebacker from Philly, 15 tackles, 2 sacks, a tackle for loss, and 2 quarterback hits. And then
he balled out.
The corner for New Orleans, Alontae Taylor, 6 tackles, 3 sacks, 3 tackles for a hit, a pass deflection, and 3 quarterback hits. So those are obviously design corner blitzes there. But, that Dennis Allen defense did obviously play incredibly well against the Carolina Panthers. But those are the couple guys I want to shout out. But, yeah, obvious guys obviously played their hearts out, and they played really well. Unlike the quarterbacks who kind of were lackluster this week, the defensive guys, they showed up, and they showed who they were immediately. The offensive players of the week, Drew, who is your number one guy? Because, I really only think there was like one quarterback that really could be mentioned for this spot. So we really have a bunch of position guys, running backs, tight ends, and wide receivers that could be mentioned here, which we might not get that every single week. So we should take advantage of that and try to shout these guys out. So who is your number one guy?
I'm just going to go with Saquon. I mean,
okay, yeah.
the Isaiah Likely performance, he would have had it stitched up if he was wearing white cleats, but he wasn't. Saquon, there was a lot of talk. If you guys watched Hard Knocks, where the Giants owner is like, all right, if we let this guy walk and he's still good and he goes to the Eagles, he predicted all of this so far. Yep. Now, is Saquon still going to be doing this in week 13? I don't know. But I can tell you this. He still has the zip. We saw it. He made a fantastic catch on that touchdown pass. Yep. And there was a lot of standout running back and wide receiver performances this week, even a tight end performance, as I just mentioned. But just Saquon, the statistics, the touchdowns, it's hard to beat. As much as I'd like to give it to my boy Jordan Mason, Saquon had a better game. So
yeah, I think when it comes to running backs, my second would have been Joe Mixon. Actually, he's not my winner.
Yeah, my boy Joe. What'd Zach Moss do this week? Oh, never mind.
But my number one guy, my number one offensive player of the week is he's a familiar name, maybe not of last year, but of the yesteryears. 14 catches, 110 yards, 2 carries, and 10 yards on top of that. Mr. Cooper Kupp, who played on Sunday night, had himself a game, especially when Puka went out, unfortunately, with an injury. He was placed on IR, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, that's just so damn unfortunate.
It sucks. You hate to see it. But again, 14 catches, 110 yards. It looked like Cooper Kupp from a couple of years ago. Yeah, Isaiah Likely, shout him out. Obviously, 9 catches, 111 yards, and a touchdown. He would have had an additional, 10 yards and another touchdown if he would have just kept his foot. If he wore a size 11 instead of 13, he would have been in bounds. So super unfortunate there. But yeah, already mentioned Joe Mixon. He was up for consideration as well. The big difference between Saquon and Joe Mixon about getting like that number one running back spot for the offensive player of the week was going to be Saquon's 3 touchdowns. That definitely makes a difference. But yeah, so Cooper Kupp gets my number one. Was there any guys that you want to shout out outside of Isaiah Likely?
Yeah, I'll go same game. Jamison Williams. Good for him. Injured with his knee injury, and he's got the basketball player syndrome where every time he gets tackled, it looks like he broke something, and he goes hobbling off the field, and then he's right back in there the next play doing the thing. That is a super. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown does absolutely nothing in that game. Doesn't matter because they won, but that is a super huge development for the Lions if he is just going to be a solid number 2 wide receiver, because we already know what Amon-Ra can do. We know what Laporta can do. They got a 2-headed monster at running back. Frankly, the only thing that really holds them back a little bit is their own coach's belief in them. So the Lions look like they're back. And, I think and then, I mean, the only other thing I'm really going to say, obviously we talked about Josh Allen off the top with 4 touchdowns, but there is a certain quarterback. I know you don't want to spend too much time on these guys, but he resides down in New Orleans, and he was had a couple of tough seasons the past couple of seasons, but Derek Carr came out and he had he only had 4 incompletions. He threw 3 touchdowns, quarterback rating of 142. And I put New Orleans on the hot seat. Yeah, I put New Orleans head coach on the hot seat. Now, I think if you saw what happened in Atlanta, I might have been spot on that one. But shout out to Derek Carr. He had a fantastic game.
Yeah, and the only other guy that I was going to bring up as well, quarterback-wise, was going to be Baker Mayfield. Shout out, had a big game, 289 yards passing. But yeah, he looked fantastic. So shout out to him, especially after getting his contract, getting paid, and then going out and getting a win week 1. So hopefully we see some good things for Baker, because I feel like most of the world at this point roots for Baker Mayfield. So we want to see good things out of him.
Did you see any of the highlights from that game?
I did. Yeah, I saw some of them.
Oh, Mike Evans had this touchdown catch where his hands were back here and the corner was on him, and then he reached his hands through the corner and caught the Mike Evans. My God, like the most underrated. I'm just going to call it now. His career ain't even over. He's going to be one of the most underrated Hall of Famers when it's all said and done, because Mike Evans shows up, he laces up his cleats, and he goes for 1,000 yards.
That's
now 1,000 yards
consistency for wide receivers today.
Which is why my boy Frank Gore better make the Hall of Fame, because he got 16 seasons and 16,000 yards. Shout out to him going to the 49ers Hall of Fame last night. They said he was at his playing weight when McCaffrey was on the inactive list. I thought they might just put a uniform on Frank Gore and bring him out there. But little did you know, we had a little Jordan Mason action waiting for you. Yep. So here we go.
Sticking with week 1 and talking about performances, we want to start talking about week to week. Keeping an eye on the rookies that we scouted. I mean, we scouted over 200 rookies this offseason, talked about them in the draft, mock drafts, and actual drafts, and we're live during the draft. So we did a lot of coverage for this past draft class, our first year on the channel, obviously. So many years to come on that. We want to go ahead and take a look at the top 3 rookie performances of week one. So we have 3 of them each. Drew, go ahead and start us off. Where are we going to start?
I'm going to go on the offensive side of the ball. Weapon wise, I shouted this man out last week. He's the only bright spot on a team that's not going to do anything this year, who also on my list of hot seats for the coaches. You're on your own 40-yard line with 7 minutes to go. It's 4th and 1. You decide to punt. Good job, Antonio Pierce. I'm shouting out Brock Bowers. He lined up in the tight end spot. He lined up out wide. He lined up in the slot. He led the Raiders in targets and catches. 14 times in line, 24 times in the slot, twice out wide, and once in the backfield. That is a super versatile chess piece. I wish the 49ers had him, because he is just going to do fantastic things for his entire career. And it would be nice if they could find some decent quarterback play. That way they could take advantage of his run after the catch ability, but that remains to be seen. So my offensive rookie weapon of week 1 is going to be Brock Bowers. And I don't think it's going to be the last time I bring him up.
Probably not. Mine is going to be the very glaring, obvious one that everybody watched on the first night of football. The fastest man at the combine, Mr. Xavier Worthy, 2 receptions, 47 yards, 1 touchdown. And then on top of that, a carry for 21 yards and a touchdown. He looked pretty incredible. And now let's go ahead and take a step back on just those 2 alone. And let's just say, if you're clicking on the video for the first time, go back and listen to our predictions for the rookies. And I just want to say we're pretty spot on for a lot of them. You called out Brock Bowers. I called out Xavier Worthy. We said they both were going to have good games. I said Jaden Daniels could be possibly poised for a big game. He had the best rookie quarterback performance out of all of them. So a lot of good predictions that we had going on. So again, Xavier Worthy, 2 receptions, 47 yards, touchdown. Drew, you called it out. You said that Andy Reid was going to use this guy all over the place. They're going to gadget the shit out of him. You saw it on one of our YouTube shorts. So exactly how they used him: 2 touchdowns and a total of 68 yards in his debut.
And shout out to every single hater of the 2020 podcast that said I was an idiot for taking Xavier Worthy in our mock drafts over AD Mitchell. Because I'm pretty sure AD Mitchell had 1 catch for 2 yards, and Xavier Worthy is going to probably, he's on Tyreek Hill rookie touchdown watch. That's all I can say. So, and to be clear, Xavier Worthy had the best performance out of all the rookies on the offensive side of the ball, but I already knew we were going to talk about him. That's why I went Bowers. So yeah, shout out to Xavier Worthy. He was definitely number 1 on the offensive side of the ball for the rookies, weapon wise.
And that's the reality of this, is Drew and I are picking different guys. So you're really getting top 6 rookie performances of week 1. Drew, on the defensive side of the ball, I had Mr. Jared Verse on my defensive side of the ball. 4 tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, 2 quarterback hits, and 6 pressures. Tied the rookies with pressures this week. I almost went with a Mr. Marshawn Nealon from the Dallas Cowboys, but unfortunately he couldn't grab that sack, and they had almost identical numbers outside of that. But Jared Verse got the sack. He deserves this spot for getting a rookie spotlight on the performances of week 1. Who did you have?
I thought that what Latu did was pretty good. I was a little concerned with the fact that he just provided not much in the run game, in the run stopping game, which is where Jared Verse shined. Yes. So I'm going to go with Latu. There wasn't a ton of rookie defensive standout performances. Cooper DeJean didn't even make the field.
Yeah.
And
Quinyon pretty good out there on Friday.
Quinyon did. Terrion Arnold was picked apart pretty badly.
He was.
Ennis Rakestraw made the field for them later that game because there was some injuries. Ton of injuries for the Rams in that game. Nate Wiggins, he played a little bit for the Baltimore Ravens, and he looked pretty good, but limited snaps. So I went with Latu here just because he had more snaps. I think he played 30 or 35 snaps. But Jared Verse in the run game was pretty impressive. Obviously, it didn't help them on that last drive, but that defense was just so gassed at that point. lot of controversy. I don't know why we're carrying these playoff overtime rules and not carrying them in the regular season. That's absolutely stupid to me. Now, the fact of the matter is the Rams are absolutely gassed. I don't think they're going down the field and scoring there anyway. But that's just stupid that we're doing this in the regular season and not in the postseason. It's just dumb. So
I agree. Who's your third?
I'm going to give a shout out to my boy Dominic Pooney for the 49ers because we just ran the shit down the Jets' throat. But I'm going to go with Joe Alt. He was fantastic. I mean, Max Crosby tried, and then Max Crosby said, "No, I'm gonna go over to the Slater side. I'm gonna go after Slater." Right. For some reason, I am a PFF guy, but I think that Joe Alt won like 42 of 44 snaps. PFF didn't love him as much, but again, they're watching the individual play, and maybe he missed some stuff in pass protect that didn't actually affect the play. Obviously, we only see the outcomes of the play. So if a guy whiffs, but they throw a 30-yard pass, then we don't care that he whiffs. So I'm going to go with Joe Alt. I know there was a lot of controversy with the Chargers selecting him because they needed a wide receiver, but I think they found one. So Joe
Alt just did not give up a quarterback hit, pressure, or sack, and had a 79% pass block win rate this week. I chose a different offensive lineman. I went with Talisi Fuanga from the New Orleans Saints. He led all rookies with a 94% pass block win rate, which is just kind of absurd. So he looked great. He felt great. And what's great is I already knew coming into the season, he's great at run blocking. That's what he exceeds in. He's nasty. He's disgusting. He's vicious when it comes to that. What he needed to improve on was the pass block stuff. And then, yes, I know it's the Carolina Panthers, but at the end of the day, as a rookie and you're switching sides from right tackle to left tackle for the first time in your career, and you get a 94% pass block win rate, it's impressive, and it should be shouted out 100% for the week 1 performances.
Yeah, well, he's got a certain somebody named Micah Parsons lined up against him next week. So we'll see if we're talking about him on the podcast next week. And if we are, whew.
Yeah, definitely going to keep an eye out for that, especially when you say, I already talked about Marshawn Nealon. He had 6 pressures. D-Law had, I believe he also had 6 pressures. So everybody on the Cowboys defensive line looked pretty good, but also let's contextualize that a little bit. The Browns were missing their 2 starting tackles. Now the right side of the New Orleans Saints offensive line with Trevor Penning is god-awful. He's horrible. So let's see how much they attack that left-hand side. Sticking with week 1, just for a little bit more, we're going to talk about 3 more things we have to talk about, since we already talked about it a little bit, is Brazil. Now, this was This is the first game to be played in Brazil. It was on primetime. It was highly advertised by the NFL. Player safety was a big concern for the players outside the stadium, but yet it was the field in the stadium that was the most dangerous. On the very first play from scrimmage, Eagles running back Saquon Barkley got his Philadelphia first snap. It was a 5-yard loss because of slipping immediately after taking a pitch. In the second quarter, the turf helped the Eagles score a touchdown as receiver A.J. Brown escaped from Packers quarterback Jair Alexander, who slipped while trying to tackle Brown as the receiver returned upfield. Later in the half, Packers quarterback Jordan Love lost his footing as he faked a handoff, causing him to rush his ensuing throw, which was nearly intercepted on another Packers drive. Running back Emmanuel Wilson slipped at the end of a 14-yard run, cutting his explosive rush short. One play later, Green Bay receiver Dentavion Wicks also slipped very badly midfield while running a route, causing Jordan Love to miss, and once again, a near interception. So it was time and time again. Obviously, we were all typing in the group chat saying this is embarrassing. So Drew, give me your takeaways from Brazil, specifically about this field.
Yeah, I'm just going to go to a quote from Kenny Clark. Kenny Clark says, "It was trash. I've played in snow, I've played in rain, and I've never played on a surface as bad as that." Yep. This is a player that we're talking about the Packers. The Packers play in Lambeau Field, which is a frozen tundra for 70% of the season. And it was absolute trash. And now we have a star quarterback who just signed a massive extension in the offseason. Basically, the Packers season is over because I don't know if you guys have, if he misses 3 games, maybe, but if he misses 4 to 6, I don't know if you guys know anything about their backup, but he may be the worst backup in the league. And he's probably battling that out with the former 49ers quarterback, Trey Lance. But Willis, I mean, just what are the Packers going to do? They're going to run the ball 70 times a game. That season, the Packers had an amazing showing last year. We were all talking about how great they could be this year. And now, because of field conditions, it's over like that. It's just very disappointing.
Absolutely. And when it comes to looking at the Packers, looking forward to them, immediately afterwards it happened, and looking at the very, very close replay and looking like something almost popped or moved. It was kind of weird to see. So it was great to hear that he did not have any actual structural damage to his ACL. But at the end of the day, looking at the Packers schedule, I had them starting out at 6-0. Yes, they did obviously lose their first game. But I still had them, at that point, you could still call it 5-1. They have the Colts next week, Titans after that. They face the Vikings, the Rams, the Cardinals, and the Texans. That brings us all the way up to October 20th. That is the next 6 weeks. So that's the first 7 weeks of their season. And with backup Malik Willis, I'm right there with you, Drew. I don't see them beating the Colts, especially with how Anthony Richardson and how the Colts looked last week against one of my favorite teams going into the season, the Houston Texans. The Titans did not look good. They might be able to pull out a win there, but the Titans defense looked pretty good holding that Bears offense. Obviously week 1 rookie quarterback. We can talk about that obviously a little bit later, but then Vikings, Rams, Cardinals, Texans, you have a bunch of tough teams leading into there. So if he's missing for any more than 3-4 weeks, yeah, we're talking about the Packers schedule and their playoff hopes kind of slowly dwindling because of this. It's very disappointing. Outside of just Brazil and talking about week 1, there was a lot of confusion surrounding the Christian McCaffrey late inactivity. Speculation is circulating that the 49ers misled fans and, of course, the big part, the bettors, about a CMC injury before ruling him out just minutes before kickoff. It was really close to 90 minutes before kickoff. Backup Jordan Mason claimed that he was told Friday he'd start, contradicting Kyle Shanahan's statement that CMC would play. Now fans are left wondering if Shanahan was covering it up or if someone else in the organization spilled the beans. So, Drew, what is your take on this? I know we're talking about off record before the podcast started about this a little bit. You are our resident 49ers fan, so give us your take on what's going on here. Yeah, you know what? You're right.
Don't call me a fan.
Expert. I'm sorry.
I'm not a fan.
You're the expert.
I am not a fanatic. We know some fanatics. That is not me. Yeah, I don't know if it matters. Obviously, it matters for the NFL and the gambling lines and everything. And if they had put Christian McCaffrey on Friday as doubtful, it would have changed the gambling lines, and it would have just cost more people more money because the 49ers came out and stomped that ass. If you tell the Jets, hey, Christian McCaffrey's not playing this week, they probably game plan more for Brock Purdy and some offensive explosion passing stuff. And we didn't do that. We just went with the Christian McCaffrey game plan, ran it down their throat. Brock had an amazing game. And, frankly, I think this happens a lot in the NFL, gaming the injury list. And also, you know what the NFL did this year? They eliminated the probable designation on the injury report. So now you got questionable and you got doubtful. Yep. Kyle Shanahan said today in his press conference that if the game had been important, Christian McCaffrey would have played. Yep. And I was like, well, damn, that's a shot at the Jets. But I just think for my team, you're seeing a more laid back approach this year. I think the 49ers know they're going to be in the playoffs, and we need to save. We were talking all year last year. Can we get Jordan Mason into the game? Can we get Elijah Mitchell into the game? Can we get Christian McCaffrey out of the game? We're winning by 17 points and he's touched the ball 36 times. Can we get him out of the game? So I just think you're going to see a more conservative approach with the 49ers this year. Obviously, just to touch on that game very briefly, you got a number 1 overall pick. Not number 1 overall. I'm sorry. Our first round pick who was shot in the chest and didn't play. You got our backup running back, Elijah Mitchell, that's on season-ending IR. Christian McCaffrey doesn't play. Brandon Ayuk had 2 catches for 20 yards, didn't do anything. Hufanga doesn't play. Dre Greenlaw doesn't play.
Yeah.
And we kicked their ass. So I think you may see this a lot this year. I think you might see in games where these star players for the 49ers, they are older, aren't 100% healthy. They're just not going to play because we have enough on the team to hopefully win those games.
And I think maybe it's a little bit of miswording, or maybe not miswording, but it's reading into it a little bit too much. Maybe Jordan Mason was told on Friday that he would start, and maybe Kyle Shanahan thought that Christian McCaffrey would play. Those two things can coexist at the same time. It's not out of the realm of possibility that Christian McCaffrey could be on a pitch count because he didn't really practice the entire offseason. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that Jordan Mason starts and Christian McCaffrey comes in on passing counts. That's not weird. That's not out of the realm of possibility. So I think that obviously the most angry people about this entire thing are, one, just going to be haters of the 49ers, obviously.
And the media.
And then 2, it's going to be the people who bet on these type of games. So those are going to be like the 2, sets of angriest people. Outside of that, it's really not that big of a deal. Again, those 2 things can coexist at the same time. I don't think it's really that big of a deal.
Plus, if I'm the head coach of the 49ers, first of all, we would be terrible. But if I was the 49ers head coach and I have a meeting with all my positional coaches and the medical staff, and they say, hey, Christian McCaffrey's Achilles is, he's got tendonitis. It's kind of tight. So, okay, we'll keep an eye on it. And then I turned to our running backs coach, who is Bobby Turner, and say, hey, man, make sure everybody's ready to go. Make sure that our rookie running back Garindo knows that he's probably going to be up on game day. Make sure that our 3rd string, 4th string running backs are ready to go, and make sure Jordan Mason knows if this thing turns south, he might be in line for an extended role. And so then you go to Jordan Mason and say, hey, bro, you might have to be ready. The one thing that I will say is Deebo Samuel and his media availability said that Kyle Shanahan came to him 2 hours before game time and told him, hey, we had to switch up the script and you're going to have to provide more in the run game tonight. And Deebo said, let's go. So they were not planning the Deebo usage. I think he had 8 or 9 carries, had a touchdown, rushing touchdown. They weren't planning that 2 days ago. So they had not put that into the work week. They hadn't gone with the wide back package, as they like to call it. Deebo found out 2 hours for the game that he was going to be getting carries. So they knew on Thursday or Friday he wasn't playing. I don't really believe that. But also, Bill Belichick used to list Tom Brady as a hurt pinky or a hurt thumb or shit every week of the season for years and years and years just to piss the NFL off. So there's always gamemanship with these kind of things.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking about still one more thing for week 1 is the lackluster quarterback performances across the league and kind of what we make of them. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, they all kind of played like rookies, right? Again, Jaden Daniels had the best day out of all of them, and he rushed for like 16 times for like 88 yards and less than 200 yards passing, and 3 fumbles. None of them lost, but 3 fumbles on top of that. Several of the established quarterbacks just weren't any better. There were more shaky performances than good ones on Sunday and Thursday, Friday as well. Baker Mayfield, Derek Carr, Josh Allen all excelled really at leading their team to victory. CJ Stroud, Tua, Sam Darnold also, were pretty good. Kirk looked bad. Rusty, I guess you could say, for returning from his torn Achilles tendon. Deshaun Watson played like Deshaun Watson, which was, oh my gosh, he played so terrible. And some people are trying to make an excuse. Oh, well, the Cowboys defense is pretty good. You also have like $171 million guaranteed to pay him for the next couple of years. So he should play like that.
And the last time we saw the Cowboys defense, Jordan Love was bending them over. So like Deshaun Watson was throwing the ball into the stands. He was throwing the ball on streaks. He loads up, throws the ball. You're like, oh my God, they must have someone open. He missed the pass by 20 yards. You know who else was actually like dog shit was Caleb. Caleb looked awful. He was missing people by 10, 15, 20 yards.
Yep.
Guess who didn't play any preseason? The stupidity of that. You have a rookie quarterback and you're like, nah, we don't need to get reps.
Yep.
Dumb.
Yep. No, absolutely. And talking about Deshaun Watson too, it was so bad. Flex, I was at the game in Cleveland, but so bad at, I would say, probably end of the second half, beginning-ish, middle of the third quarter at the very latest. There was people around us yelling, "Bring us Jameis."
Famous Jameis. Famous Jameis.
I mean, there was people filing out of the stadium by the time middle of the third was going, really beginning of the fourth. You were getting "Let's Go Cowboys" chants from the Cleveland Browns stadium because it was mainly Cowboys fans at that point. So yeah, Deshaun didn't look good. Joe Burrow, he looked kind of out of sync. Will Levis made a crucial mistake that gave him the game away. Also gave an all-time moment with him dropping to his knees and putting his hands on his head. Absolutely hysterical. I don't know if you've seen that, but he threw the pick and just drops to his knees. Trevor Lawrence did look good in the second half. Justin Fields
looked awful.
Justin Fields just didn't seem comfortable, but it's kind of Justin Fields. Who knows? I know Drew has him in the studio right now with him. And then Kyler Murray, strong first half, faded in the second. There he is. There's Justin Fields, you guys. And then obviously Daniel Jones and Bryce Young may get the award for disasters of the week. So what do we make of all these quarterback performances? Because I know they're being kind of blown out of proportion at this point. And you brought it up, is some of the preseason or lack of preseason action may contribute to this. But what do you make of it?
Listen, Kirk Cousins was a non-athletic quarterback before he tore his Achilles, and now he tore his Achilles and he's trying to come back. I do think it's hilarious. Do you have that box score up? Do me a favor where I keep talking. Look it up, the Atlantic Falcons box score, and then tell me who led them in receiving. Justin Fields is Justin Fields.
It's Ray McCloud.
Ray. My boy. I shouted him out last week. I think it is so funny that I know people who will stand here and they will disparage a top 3 quarterback in Josh Allen, and they will disparage a 2-time MVP in Lamar Jackson, but nobody ever says shit about Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow shits the bed every 5 weeks, and people just don't say anything about him. You got Jamar Chase, you got a running back that I think sucks, but everybody else was very excited about. And you lose to the Patriots. Listen, do you know what they did to Gerard Mayo after they won that game?
They doused him in Gatorade.
They gave him the Gatorade bath, bro. They gave him the Super Bowl Gatorade bath because they beat the Bengals.
Yep, absolutely they did. Oh, that was great. Absolutely.
Yeah, the quarterback play, Lamar and Patrick Mahomes didn't look great. Patrick Mahomes, the only reason the offense was moving down the field was because of 15-yard penalties. Now, the thing is the standard Mahomes has set is so damn high that, I thought Jalen Hurts looked good. I thought Josh Allen looked good. Mahomes was fine. I'm not going to say he was bad, but just not the Mahomes game. The quarterbacking in the Patriots and New England game was terrible. The Chicago Will Levis debacle was terrible. Anthony Richardson, my God, that throw he made off his back foot was fantastic. Anthony Richardson actually was a top 4 rated quarterback by PFF. Yep. CJ Stroud is CJ Stroud. And I told you this before the season. What CJ Stroud did last year has everyone thinking Caleb Williams can be great this year with 4,000 yards and all this shit. It ain't going to happen. That rookie year that CJ Stroud had last year was fantastic. And that's why he's already, I think, 25 out of 30 teams would trade their quarterback for him today because of his talent and contract.
Yeah.
Our boy, $200 million quarterback, Trevor Lawrence looked awful. Tua, I guess.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold looked pretty good.
Looked efficient. Yeah.
He was like a top 5 quarterback for one season or one game. Obviously, we talked about Derek Carr. Herbert looked awful. Luckily, their defense held out. So, I mean, honestly, and then watching my boy last night, Brock Purdy just makes it look easy. He's not stressed. He's not rushed. He makes the right play. And his stats should have been a lot better if, Brandon Ayuk can catch a damn ball in the end zone. So
Yeah, we shouldn't short the well, first of all, Brock Purdy's still gonna obviously Brock Purdy can have one of the greatest NFL seasons this year, and there's still gonna be questions, and they're still gonna be like, well, he has the Avengers. Well, of course he had a good season. Whatever. It should not be overlooked that how good that Jets defense is and how many points that the 49ers put up. It should not be it should be talked about a little bit more and how good Brock looked. And obviously Jordan Mason kind of looked like he did whatever he wanted on that front. So, 49ers looked great and Brock looked great.
Can we talk about the Jets for a second?
Yeah, we absolutely can.
Aaron Rodgers did not look very good. I know you have some thoughts on this, so I'm going to go through my little spill here, then I'll let you follow up on why you think. But if you look at his passing chart, he made one throw to the right side of the field where a man named Mooney Ward hangs out, and Mooney Ward dropped the pick. Besides that, he didn't throw over there. He only targeted Lenore, who also baited him into a pick that our linebacker caught. But they were not able to run the ball, and yesterday's game is going to be the healthiest that offensive line is all season. And they invested heavily in that offensive line. They got a brand new left tackle, got a brand new right tackle. They got a top 15 pick at tackle who didn't even play a snap.
Yep.
And,
they invested in the offensive line on every single front in terms of they drafted, they signed, they traded for. They literally invested every way they possibly could.
They look suspicious. And if it were me, I might think to myself, man, do you think a pass rusher could have helped them last night when Brock Purdy was sitting back there just dink up? Here's a pass. Here's a pass. Here's a pass. You don't think another pass rusher could have helped them?
I think
maybe they have someone.
Yeah, I don't know. I swear they have someone. He's like sitting on the couch somewhere.
He's eating Cheetos just like you and me, Hassan Reddick.
Exactly. When it comes to the Jets and specifically the offense, because I think that is the most talked about part, I think the defense was good in terms of they did what they could with the offense not being able to do anything. They were on the field a lot. The play calling was atrocious. I watched the first half of the game and I turned it off. I was like, this is the most uninspiring, boring, piss poor play calling That's seen.
Aaron Rodgers' boy. You show him some respect.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm like, Nathaniel Hackett, that's his man. Like, he gets so defensive and so angry over him specifically too. Why are we trying to force Breece Hall on this defensive line that is this good? This front seven is very talented. Why are we forcing it this hard? When Aaron threw the ball, he had zip on it. He looked pretty good, but it's like the play designs did not allow him to do anything, and he was just kind of fine with it. I know there were some drops, like, the first pass was dropped by Allen Lazard, and there's stuff like that can be cleaned up, but the play calling by itself was bad. There's nothing you could say outside of it. Like, Breece Hall running that many times should not happen when it's not working. Like, he must have had Breece Hall on his fantasy team. He's like, I need you to score a touchdown or something. I need something to happen here. I don't know. It was really, really bad. That's why I personally only watched the first half. I turned it off, said, I'm going to go do something else instead. This game fucking sucks. And I just tuned it out at that point. So that's
how I felt watching your guys' game, just so you know. It was the 125 game,
yeah.
The Fox 125. By the way, there was more than one terrible performance from a quarterback during the Broncos-Cowboys game, and I'm not gonna disparage Tom Brady too much because he's the GOAT of all GOATs. But holy shit, I hope he gets better because he was not good, and everybody's called him out for being not good. And do you know who was bad? Drew Brees was terrible, and they said, "Get the hell out of here, you suck." Jason Witten was terrible. They said, "Get the hell out of here. You suck." You could tell it's hard, but Tony Romo was fantastic from the first. Damn, I almost got struck dead for complimenting something Cowboys. Tony Romo was fantastic from his first time in the booth. He was literally saying, "Oh, this is what they're going to run right here. Here's the play." And then it would happen. It was like he could see 10 seconds in the future. So Brady not being great. I don't want to hear, "Oh, he needs practice. He needs all this shit." He needs preseason reps, just like all the other quarterbacks out there. He was bad. Everybody thinks he was bad. So hopefully he gets better because they gave him like 10 years and $400 million. So
let's go ahead and move into the tail end of our show. A couple of talking points for week 2. Number one, still talking about quarterbacks, and that's going to be Justin Fields. Justin Fields looks like he will be the starter for week 2. Mike Tomlin confirmed today on Tuesday that Fields is going to get the start over Russell Wilson in Sunday's week 2 matchup against the Broncos. Unfortunately, that means that Russell Wilson can't face off against the team that dumped him. Fields started and led the teams to an 18-10 victory over the Atlanta Falcons. He went 17 of 23, 156 yards, in addition to 57 yards on the ground on 14 carries. Pittsburgh offense will face the Denver defense that gave up 26 points during its week 1 loss against the Seattle Seahawks. The Broncos were specifically soft against the run, and Seattle running back Kenneth Walker rumbled up to 101 yards and a touchdown on just 20 carries. So you're probably going to see a whole lot of running, especially from Justin Fields, Najee, Jaylen Warren. It's going to be a heavy run game. And, Pittsburgh has their defense. Pittsburgh's still Pittsburgh. So it's going to be interesting. So my question for you is, if Justin Fields and the Pittsburgh Steelers, if they can pull out a win here in week 2, which it's possible, it's the Denver Broncos. If they pull out a win here in week 2 and Russell Wilson is healthy, does Fields get the start, or are they going with Wilson still?
No, they're gonna do this thing the right way. It's just gonna go hot hand. I wouldn't be surprised to see one of these quarterbacks benched for the other multiple times this season and game. The thing about Russell Wilson is he's still a quarterback. Justin Fields is not. Russell Wilson will still attack the middle of the field. He's still one of the best deep ball passers of all time, although he hasn't been in seasons past. But I don't know if you saw this, but he was inactive on Sunday.
Wilson.
Yes.
Yeah.
You might be confused hearing that he was inactive because he was on the sideline wearing full fucking shoulder pads and his jersey despite being inactive. And it's the most corniest, jabroniest shit that is just more reasons why why his teammates hate him. Richard Sherman hates Russell Wilson. Marshawn Lynch hates Russell Wilson. You're inactive. Why are you wearing full pads on the sideline? I don't know why it irritates me so much. It's just embarrassing. He's like God, how can you be, you're the biggest fucking dork to ever play in the NFL. And I don't know why you being a dork bothers me so much, but what are you doing? Why?
That's great.
It just makes me so. I saw him on the sideline and I'm like, listen, I'm at work right now. I'm not even supposed to have Red Zone up right now. I got shit to do at work and I'm staring at Russell Wilson with his pads on, wondering what the fuck is going on.
That's great.
If I'm Tomlin, I'm like, bro, go. You're a distraction now. Now you're a distraction.
Everyone's just staring at him, getting ready for the game. Like, what the fuck is he doing?
and what's crazy is he's not a good QB anymore. And I will always have respect for Russell Wilson because he destroyed the Niners for so many years.
Yeah.
And I don't have any respect for Justin Fields because he's terrible his whole career. And the guy they got rid of was Kenny Pickett. So it's just like they really haven't made, a bad decision per se with what they're going on because they moved off Kenny Pickett, who was terrible. They brought in 2 guys to compete. And unfortunately, it's just, who are the other free agent quarterbacks they could have brought in? They could have tried to sign Kirk Cousins. He looked awful. Jimmy Garoppolo is suspended. Yeah. Gardner Minshew looked terrible week 1. It's just, I think that Jerry Jones traded for Trey Lance to try to supplant Dak Prescott. And then Trey Lance had 19 interceptions in one preseason game. And Jerry's like, oh, well, shit, I guess I'm going to have to pay Dak, And I got to say, handing Dak that contract, in my opinion, takes Mike McCarthy off the hot seat completely because you don't have Dak have his best season ever under Mike McCarthy's play calling and then not bring McCarthy back. Besides, what are you going to do? You're going to hire Belichick and he's going to bring in Josh McDaniels. You're going to hire Deion Sanders and he's going to bring in what? You know what I mean? So I think Mike McCarthy, as much as people are talking about the hot seat, and I made a big deal of that last week, he's fine. Dak's fine. Cowboys are fine till they get to the playoffs. But all it takes is a couple of games. No, I'm just saying, like Dak Prescott, we know Dak Prescott can go on a best quarterback in the fucking world heater for 2 to 3 games. We just need it to happen in January.
Yep. looking at the CMC injury once again, Drew, do you feel like we covered it enough, or do you want to talk about do you have concern over the CMC injury?
Oh yes.
Okay.
I have major concerns. I do not think CMC is playing this week. We are playing Minnesota, which is a artificial field.
Yep.
I think that I do not think you're going to see CMC play too many games on artificial field this year. I think on grass he'll be playing. I do not think he's playing on artificial field. So if you have CMC, if you drafted him number 1, trade for Jordan Mason right now.
For people who don't know about this Achilles tendonitis, do you know any other former players who had this type of injury?
Oh, yeah. There's this guy. He plays linebacker for us. His name's Dre Greenlaw. He had Achilles issues all year last year. And then his Achilles ruptured while he was running onto the field to play football. Not playing football, not in the middle of a play. No, he was running onto the field to play, and his Achilles ruptured.
Yep.
And if Christian McCaffrey ruptures his Achilles, then this may be sacrilege. But if I was the 49ers, I would cut him because he's not coming back from that, not in the way he is now. And Kyle Shanahan is famous for finding these undrafted guys. You know, the 49ers, Kyle Shanahan leads the league in yards and touchdowns by undrafted rookies since he came to the 49ers. We find these guys all over the place. Jeff Wilson Jr. and Matt Breida and all these other guys. So Raheem Mostert was a special teamer until we made him into what he was, and he's continued to do good. But yeah, I have big time concerns for Christian McCaffrey. And I've often said that I think that he could have a long-lasting career with the 49ers because I think later towards his career, he could turn into more of a slot type guy for us on offense and not carry the ball as much. But an Achilles injury for a running back is big time problem. So I do not expect him to play this week. It's a short week. We just played. We're not practicing today, and we have to fly to Minnesota for a 10 a.m. game.
Yeah,
I would be absolutely shocked if he's active on Sunday.
Yeah, it sounds like he's going to be inactive, and I would be concerned too as well, especially for me, who is unfortunately a Christian McCaffrey stockholder in fantasy. So unfortunate.
Did you get Jordan Mason?
Yes, I did. Someone was kind enough to trade me for him, so I appreciate that very much.
What a nice guy.
Shout out to whoever that was. What a fucking guy.
What a guy.
Now looking at our last thing of the week, Drew, our weekly now upset of the week. We are both unfortunately 0 for 1. You took the Broncos.
I was only a little wrong. Oh yeah, you were more wrong than I forgot about that. Okay, I was a little wrong. You were like big
wrong. We're both 0-1 at this point. All that matters is record. Fuck off. Drew,
right?
Who is your upset of the week? Let's see if we can turn this 0-1 to 1-1.
Speaking of which, before we go here, I really need you to clip my Russell Wilson in pads rant for me, please. So hopefully you put a little. I don't have social media anymore, but I'm at least going to put that shit on TikTok. So upset of the week. Man, I really, really don't love this week's slate of games, especially since I really love week 3. But I mean, these, like I said, the home team gets 3 points. So Miami's technically a favorite against Buffalo. I'm taking Buffalo to win that game. I don't think that's an upset of the week.
Right.
I am going to say a 7-point favorite. I'm going to pick the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to go into Detroit and beat the Lions.
I got really close to picking that one. And I'm like, you know what? I've been wrong before. Like I've been like 47-10 wrong before. So why not
7 days ago?
So like maybe why not like try it again? Let's throw something else in there. I'm gonna go New England over Seattle this week. New England had a good game stopping Joe Burrow and the offense. They had a guy, Keon White, get 2.5 sacks. He was in contention for that defensive player of the week. He had a pretty decent week, but if this New England front can stop Kenneth Walker, then I don't think Geno Smith is really going to get anything going. Yes, lots of weapons out there in Seattle, but I think this defense is good enough to hold them just a little bit. And if Jacoby Brissett can just do just enough, 16 points maybe, then I think they can pull out the win.
think that the Cincinnati Bengals Kansas City Chiefs game's pretty tasty.
Yeah,
that's
interesting to me too.
But for some reason, man, now we're just talking straight victories, right? We're not talking about covering the spread or anything, because Baltimore's a 9.5, 10-point favorite against the Raiders, and that's got Raiders written all over to do something funky against the Ravens. Right. So,
Brock Osweiler's legacy game.
Yeah, man. Just a shitty slate, really. I mean, the Cincinnati Bengals Kansas City Chiefs game on paper is cool. Are we super excited about Monday Night Football with the Falcons Eagles? I think the Eagles are going to, run on that.
Falcons look really weird. Kirk looked weird. I mean, like, most of the snaps was out of the pistol. His stance was funny. People were pointing out his stance all over social media. I don't know if you noticed it, but he usually played with an offset stance, and this one he was playing with a set stance, because in pistol you don't want to give away whether you're running the ball or you're going to go drop back for a pass. So trying to switch Kirk Cousins at this age right after a major injury like this probably isn't the smartest idea in the world, but they're running with it. And we'll see what comes about it. They have some weapons out there in Atlanta. I should put quotes, weapons, maybe not weapons. We're not sure, but they're, potentially weapons. So I'm not sure. But, yeah, I'm not super excited for that matchup either.
And then, Sunday night, we get to watch Caleb, which will be fun. But if he plays like last week, the Texans are going to rout him. So that won't be too fun. But I do have a question. Are you nervous at all
about this next week?
About Derek fucking Carr.
It would feel like a trap game for us, wouldn't it?
Bro, if there's going to be an upset.
No, I'm not super worried about it. I think that our offense played efficient, and we did it against a good defense. And we're talking about an offense that didn't play any snaps in the preseason. Dak just got his contract, CD as well. Those guys didn't play any snaps. Our offensive line played some. We have our starting tight end is going to be out for a few weeks, but I'm not super concerned considering some of the other guys that are surrounding the team. So no, I'm not super concerned about it. Our defense is going to go out and they're going to do do their job perfectly fine. I'm not worried about them. I would be worried about the offense, but again, I think that we got our game out of the way. Really good defense. We played really well, really efficiently, and we got the win. So I'm not super concerned. But if someone looked me in my face next week and said, "Hey, you guys lost," I'd be like, that's a fucking trap game, and that really sucks. And I wouldn't be exactly super duper surprised just because of how things go.
The only thing I will say about this, and just because if you weren't a Cowboys fan, I probably wouldn't poke too much fun at you for it, but it does got a little bit of last year written all over it, where you guys got lambasted by the Cardinals because you were kind of looking forward to some games. You guys got the Baltimore Ravens next week, week 3, and it wouldn't be the first time that a Mike McCarthy team has looked pretty unprepared for a lesser opponent. So we'll see. But oh boy, if Lamar does something special against y'all, oh my God, I'm going to go to NFLshop.com. I'm going to buy a Lamar Jackson jersey, and I'm going to ship that bitch straight out to Idaho. So I'm very, very excited for week 3, not so much week 2.
Well, all this was fantastic, Drew. We are just over an hour. Before we head out, and we look forward to next week's games. Again, we'll be back next week live streaming and doing our thing as usual. But do you have anything to say to the people before we log off?
Yeah. Do you have I know we're gonna do a recap next week, but do you have what's the game you're looking forward to most this upcoming week?
I think that the Rams Cardinals game could be really good.
Yep.
And I am also very excited for that Bucks Lions game. I think that game could be really good because if Baker continues to go out and play well against another secondary that just is not that good, it's going to be a pretty close game. So I'm excited for those two specifically.
Yeah, I'm very, very excited for Rams, Arizona. I just think that's going to be – I think that, unfortunately, since the Rams – I think if the Rams had won against the Lions, we'd been talking about Matt Stafford as the number one like performance of the week, right?
Yep.
Unfortunately, one pass just a little past Cooper Kupp's hands, but and yeah, I mean, I think Baker's at the point now where I think Baker is so fun to watch because he plays the quarterback position like the words "fuck it" are tattooed on his face. You know what I'm saying? Like he just, he escapes the pocket on one play and he like slides forward for a first down and he does this big old major first down thing with these guns like this, and then he slaps the defensive player on his ass as he walks by. Which is typical Baker. And then like 3 plays later, he escapes the pocket and he lowers his shoulder into the defender, and he got whopped a little bit. And then it was funny because I forget who it was. I don't know if it was Rachaad White or who's the rookie running back for the Buccaneers, Bucky Irving. I like ran over and got right in Baker's ear hole. It was basically like, hey, fuckface, don't lower your shoulder into the defenders. Go down. It was just kind of, Baker plays with that mentality. And frankly, it reminds me a little bit of Mike Evans' running mate at Texas A&M, Mr. Johnny Manziel, who would just, fuck it, Mike Evans is down there somewhere. Good luck. And, right. 9 times out of 10, Mike Evans just does the damn thing. So It's fun to watch a quarterback wide receiver tandem that'll pitch and catch like that. And just, especially when you got a freakazoid like Mike Evans and just throw it off down there. But I'm kind of hoping the other game is I'm kind of hoping that, I got a little money action on the Jets trading for a certain wide receiver that plays for Las Vegas right now. So I got a little Devontae Adams to the Jets trade deadline action going. So hopefully the Jets look a little better this week because, Aaron Rodgers, 4-time MVP. I don't want his career to end the way it's trending right now. So
absolutely. All right.
That's all I got.
We will see everybody next week for the week 2 analysis and then week 3 look ahead. Make sure you subscribe on any and all platforms. We do appreciate it. But besides that, enjoy your Tuesday. Peace.